Greetings. It's Marianne Kilkenny, Women for Living in Community. I'm glad you're here. Hi. So I'm really excited about what we're talking about today. And that is some of the women that I have worked with in the Aging and Community movement. I'm going to tell you about 4 women who I have the joy of personally knowing, and I'm going to tell you some things about them that I have found out through the last 15 years. Yeah, so I hope you have a piece of paper, some notes, because I'm going to ask you some questions about the qualities that these women portray, and also the qualities that you might portray that are like theirs. Or maybe that, I don't know, you hear me talk about and I don't mention. So if you're here, say hi, and I'm going to get started. And this is about the women in my life, the female role models in the community movement. So, I also put some links for you in here, so later on you can take a look at them. And if you see qualities that you hear me say, if you could put them in the chat, I would really appreciate it, because that way I know you're there. So the first, oh, wait, I need to tell you that this is Women for Living in Community. Hi, Marianne Kilkenny. Almost forgot. Heaven forbid. Hello, Linda Williams. So the first person that I'm going to mention to you is Chris Kennedy. Chris Kennedy and I have traveled a long path together. Both she and I were recruiters in Silicon Valley, and we both made it out alive and somehow decided that we wanted to be part of the Aging and Community movement. Hello, Edley. And Pole, nice to see you. So, Chris Kennedy, I met her, the first time I met her was in 2005 at a seminar. It was before I had moved to North Carolina, and she is she has such a great sense of humor, and she has made big moves. She is what I consider one of the movers and shakers, and that's why I am identifying her as somebody that's really a mover in the women living in community or the aging in community movement. She doesn't stand on the sidelines. She's almost always at the front of the room. And I have to tell you, one of the first times or many times that I saw her, she was leading a whole bunch of people with a banner, not just going from room to room at a conference. She was leading them down the hall with great fervor. That's Chris. She and I both moved east, and we have been to co-housing conferences together. We've spoke at co-housing conferences, and she actually was willing to review my book when I wrote it. And that's big. So for Chris, I have to say that, and she's worked in this field for a long, long, long time. And the qualities I think that she really possesses is she's very warm, she's very funny, and she's very creative and tenacious. Any of you feel like you're any of those things? Tenacious, creative? I hope so. That's Chris Kennedy. And she is a consultant, and she currently lives in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And this is what she says about her consulting. It's the number 2, Age to Age, is a national consulting practice guiding clients to envision, design, and launch age-friendly intergenerational projects across multiple disciplines and business sectors. So she took her experience in business and technology and married it with the aging and community movement. I'm sure Lancaster, Pennsylvania is a different place because she's there. Take a breath, Marianne. The next person is Dean Peterson. Linda is familiar with Dean Peterson. Dean is 90 years old, a force of nature. She's funny, she's engaging, and one of the qualities that I have to say are most endearing is she's very, very, very genuine. She's very real. For example, she found out I was doing a talk for the Foundation of Intentional Communities. So she picked up the phone and she called me because she wanted to say hi. I haven't talked to her probably in 4 or 5 years. Now, Dean has done presentations in Florida, in North Carolina, and probably lots of places that I'm not aware of. And this is somebody who never uses notes and never disappoints. So a little bit about what the community that she founded, and it's called Elder Spirit. It's in Abington, Virginia, and it took 10 years to get built, and it has been around for probably 10 years. I remember it when it was a hole in the ground and there was nothing there. And now I think it's 20 years old. Who's old here? So a little bit about Elder Spirit. I'm going to mention that this is how they portray it. We are a unique, hard for me to talk today, intentional, participatory, co-housing, mixed income community for elders age 55 plus in Southwest Virginia, with both market rate owner homes and low income qualified apartment homes. So this is a really kind of unusual co-housing, and it is on the Virginia Creeper Trail. And I know people who have gone on that trail. It's gorgeous. The next thing that happened with Elder Spirit that I noticed is a community grew around that community. So there's people that don't fit necessarily in the restricted income, but they want to be close to the action of the community. So it's grown, there's been a growth around the community. And a fun fact about this is that I was part of a group that was called the Beguines, and we actually were part of an outgrowth of the Elder Spirit offerings that they gave to try to further on other groups to do exactly what they had done. So let me know you're there, please. And I have to tell you that it was really wonderful that I was able to hang out with them at Elder Spirit. And the last fun fact, Dean Peterson was a nun. Who knew? The next woman is Lynn Iser. So Lynn Iser lives in Philadelphia, and I knew her from conferences that I'd gone to, and I probably met her at the same time I met Chris Kennedy. She and I, somehow along the line, decided that we were going to do a conference after I first moved to Asheville, and it was called Women Living in Community, From Dreaming to Doing. It was done in open space. It was over 2 days, and over 100 women were there. So I'm going to stop for a second to make sure that I'm not stuck or anything here. So Adley, Linda, let me know. Thumbs up. Because this happened last time with this one. Hey, Elaine. Nice to hear from you. I'm moving right along. Lynn Iser. we did a conference together, and it was one of the highlights, I would say, of my life here. Because, as I said, we did it in open space. Any of you familiar with open space? Raise a hand or anything like that. Yeah. Thanks, Adley. And it was amazing. So again, since then, she has become an activist. And identifies herself as a teacher, a facilitator. She's the creator and founder of elderactivists.org. And this organization, I'm reading this, is committed to bringing forth a thriving and just world by advocating a strong elder legacy that creates hope for ourselves and future generations. Yeah. Well, sometimes, since some of you aren't familiar with open space, I will tell you a little bit about it. Stay tuned. I loved the conference. So again, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about as far as the qualities of these women, because I think that is what really shows me, other than they're movers and shakers and willing to hang in here, about the aging and community movement. Now, Lynn is one of the most centered, calm, and grounded beings. I don't know how many hours a day she meditates. I doubt she does. But because when I was doing the conference with her, she was living with her husband and I believe his 5 children, which she adopted. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things that, this is a quote from Lynn. I'm grateful that I found my courage to take risks and stand up for the sake of our children, our future generations, because that's our responsibility as elders. And this is from something that was in Rocking Chairs Wilmington. So grab your rocking chair and let's get to work. You see why I love Lynn? She's an activist. And another thing about Lynn is there was a picture of her on her Facebook page before COVID closed the fire drills Fridays down. She had a picture taken with Jane Fonda and Ted Danson when they were doing that. So depending on your political views, that's Lynn, and she was there with Jane Fonda and Ted Danson. Pretty exciting. And I don't know if you guys have ever had this experience. If so, let me know. So I'm reading this book, Women Rowing North, by one of my favorite authors, Mary Pfeiffer. I think that's how you say it. So I'm reading along in this book that I borrowed from a friend. I still have it. Oops. And I'm reading along, and it says, Lynn was married to a man whose wife had died and left him 5 children. Mordecai was a lifelong activist and community organizer in Philadelphia. Does this sound like someone I might know? So it goes on to talk about what I just said about her. She developed something called the Conscious Elders Network. So she goes on to, and then she quotes Lynn as saying, she phrases elderhood to describe older adults who have taken responsibility to fix things. Yeah. So that's Lynn. And she talks about aging, and she says, I have time to consider the big questions now. My definition of successful aging is having loving relationships and a life of engagement and meaning. Hopefully you got that one. A quote from Lynn Iser. Those of you on replay, enjoy. Great book. And next, 3 women who I have to tell you, I don't remember how I met them initially. Maybe Linda does. Karen Bush, Louise Machinist, and Jean McQuillin. So they wrote a book called My House, Our House, Living Far Better for Far Less in a Cooperative Household in 2013. They also had a very long video that you can probably see on YouTube with Jane Pauley about how they lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as Golden Girls in a big house. So catch that one. And we presented together at conferences in the past. And we were some of the things that are in the description there was one of the conferences that we did together in Florida. Now their book, right here, is now out of print, but you can get it on Amazon. Let me tell you a little bit about this book. It's a narrative. The feline is one of the main characters in this. So you have to believe that they got to be good people, right? They have mutual cats or a mutual cat. So they lived together in Pittsburgh for 9 years before they went other directions, and 2 of the 3 actually went to Sarasota, Florida, and lived together. And that's a whole nother story. But back to their book. I introduced this in my class, and one of the folks here, as a matter of fact, said, "Wow, great book, how practical it is." So, a practical book. And as a fan of flip charts, they used flip charts when they were deciding, as they retired, how they might live together. Very practical. So that's that book. So what qualities did you hear that I mentioned? Anybody? Let me know the qualities. Some of the ones that I noticed in these women are tenacity, humor, sense of humor, a little bit of grit, focus, risk-taking. And one of the things that I think is amazingly important about living in community, or even considering the possibility of working or living in it, flexibility. Yeah, flexibility. Adley wants to know their last names. I also have it in the description. So it's Chris Kennedy, Dean Peterson, Lynn Iser, which is I-S-E-R, and let's see, the 3 women that wrote the book, My House, Our House, Karen Bush, Louise Machinist, and Jean McQuillin. And I'll be glad, if you look at the description, I have links to all those. Hopefully that will help you. So I have to say, I've been really blessed and lucky, and I don't know, to have these women as friends and colleagues. And I'm hoping that you'll, along the way, if you haven't already met them, you'll have these kinds of women in your life to push us along to do the big work of encouraging folks to live in community, to be in community, the importance of connection. And before I tune out and say goodbye, if anybody would like a copy of this, I will send it if you direct message me, as in PM, DM, because then I'll send it to you. Again, an offer for you. First person. Again, I've decided the next couple weeks I'm going to be working on some other projects. So I'm not going to be doing a Facebook Live, so I won't be able to see you, or you won't be able to see me. Oh dear. So we have some new opportunities coming up. I have some offers coming up and some freebies, so make sure you subscribe. And another question is, towards the end of February, if you own my book, Your Quest for Home, Finding Your Ideal Community in Later Life, I'm going to be doing a webinar, a couple of hours to sort of kick it off, get you going, kind of thing. So if you want to do that with me, or you know someone who would, let us know. And as I sign off, always, I wanted to remind you, Women for Living in Community is about connection, information, and action. So, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.